Hi, welcome back to the channel. This month is Resin Cast Model Month, so for that occasion I have chosen 3 models for review, and these are 1/24 scale models of very famous cars from Alpha Models. Alpha Scale Models are a Chinese-based company that make highly detailed resin cast models, predominantly in 1/24 scale. These cars are basically luxury fast cars such as Aston Martins, BMWs, Alfa Romeos, Bugatti, Porsche, and so on and so on. You can check out their webpage, it's in the link in the description. They're not a sponsor of this channel, but if they want to be, could you please send me the Alfa Romeo Giulia, please? Before we dive into the box, let's talk a little bit about resin model kits. If you want to skip this part, go right ahead. There's a timestamp in the video timeline, so you can just skip to the various chapters, or go to this video description and click on the various chapters. Go right ahead, I dare ya. In the scale modeling world, you basically have 2 types of materials from which to build your models. One will be styrene plastic and the other will be resin. These 2 materials are very different from one another, and that shows in the production of a particular model. Whereas the conventional styrene model is made by pushing or extruding the material through the mold, thus taking the shape of the sprue and then the parts within it. Resin cast models are basically poured inside a silicone mold and put usually in a pressure chamber so that it forces all the bubbles out from the material, thus making sure that the cast is perfect, or at least that's what the person who's making the cast hopes for. The reason that I say that he hopes for is because resin is, well, quite difficult to work with. Yes, it does flow in every single nook and cranny of the mold, but it's also very brittle. If you don't design your molds very well, they can easily break off in chunks. That's also true when handling the models once they're complete. Very small details can be easily broken in half without any hesitation, as opposed to styrene plastic, which is very bendable and very soft material, which you can actually shape at will by just heating it up. Because of all of this, resin cast models are low volume models, meaning that they don't produce a lot of them in one batch. Because of their complexity, resin is used for low volume productions, such as, in this case, specialized cars that other manufacturers don't make, or specific resin cast pieces for existing scale models made from styrene, like landing gears or flaps or detailed cockpits or figures, heads, you name it. Something that kind of lifts the detail up. And the reason that they lift the detail up is because of the nature of resin. Resin cast models also capture far more detail than plastics can because they flow into the mold, especially if the mold is well designed and there's no distortion during the curing process. So all the lines of the model are more sharp, more precise, more crisp, and that gives you the feel of realism. Also, resin cast models have a little bit more mass to them than plastics. The other very important difference about resin versus plastics is you really can't use your ordinary Tamiya cement to glue the parts together because it's resin. It's not going to affect the model in the same way. So to glue the parts together, you usually either use 2-component epoxy or CA glue. In essence, that's basically it. Hope you learned something. Now let's take a look inside the boxes. Hello and welcome if you have just joined me. My name is Tomo and this is an inbox review of this Audi RS4 in 1/24 scale from Alpha Model. Just like with the Aston Martin DB11, which you can check out in the link in the description and above in the corner, this is a very tightly packed box with lots of bubble wrap and thick plastic bags that protect all the very fragile pieces of this model. And speaking of fragile pieces, here they are, laid out for your viewing pleasure in still shots. In total, we have 65 resin cast parts, along with photo etch, Insanity, and clear acrylics. Resin cast models are highly detailed in nature, far more than you can get with polystyrene. That's because in the way that they're formed. Whilst polystyrene plastic is extruded into the mold or pushed into the mold. Resin models are cast. Basically, your resin flows into the mold and goes into every nook and cranny of it, thus creating far more detail, far more sharp detail than a conventional styrene model. So if you compare one to the other, resin cast models are far more detailed because the detail is much sharper, which gives the illusion of reality. Often or not, if you see a styrene model, it's a little bit rounded on the edges. That's because of the way the material flows inside the mold. However, there's some drawbacks to resin. First of all, it's more expensive to produce, thus low volume. Another thing, lots of parts that are created from resin can be very fragile in nature, especially smaller parts which need more protection than your conventional styrene plastic, which is rather flexible in nature. Also, you cannot glue two pieces of resin together with regular cement like you would do with polystyrene. You either need some sort of epoxy or CA glue. And because resin parts are hard in nature, you do need to have a small saw to free them off their sprues or those little stubs from where they're poured into the molds. Needless to say, but the fine dust that is accompanying the sawing action of the blade is very toxic, so have protective mask handy. And as you were listening to my lovely voice and looking at this footage, you no doubtably see how detailed, ludicrously detailed this model really is. Far more than you can actually get with conventional plastic. Especially when it comes to fine details. Oh look, belt buckles. Nice. Very nice. And because this is a car, you actually get 4 wheels. I said actually, yes. You get wheels and tires separate with real rubber and very detailed rims. The first set of clear parts are the headlights and the headlight bulbs. Yes, you actually put headlight bulbs inside. And here are all the auxiliaries that you get with the model kit. Photo etch parts. These saw blades are actually the making of a brake disc. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you have to assemble your own brake discs, as well as speaker covers, netting on the back of the seats, wiper blades, belts and belt buckles, and all sorts of trim that goes all around the car. The main glass parts of the car are reproduced in clear acrylic, and as you can see, you have actually hitting elements for the back window. The decals are also super fine, just like on the DB11, clear, sharp and precise. We have some transfers for the side mirrors and badging. And so we come to the very rudimentary manual printed on printer on A4 folded paper. It's basically a CAD drawing of the car with various steps in Windows to show you how the darn thing goes together. It is okay, but like in the last week's video, it could have been done better. That's all, folks. Thank you for watching if you have been. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.